Hey, what's going on? Okay, so welcome to Curing the Psychopath, BPD, and Trauma, and all the other mental illnesses that they so-call mental illnesses in the DSM. So a lot of us had a really tough childhood, and a lot of us feel like we were unwanted. Like our parents didn't really love us or care about us, or a lot of us question the fact that, like, why were we even born? It's a real thing. Some of us are like, I don't know how anybody could feel suicidal. And a lot of us are, in our community, a lot of us don't even want to be alive, so it's quite interesting. I've always separated the world into two different categories: the average people and the people who suffer extreme torture. The people from poverty and the people that always felt unloved and unwanted. And that's how I separated the world for a very, very, very long time. I still kind of do in a weird way. I don't. I isolate myself. I don't go places. I stay inside. I once wrote on a piece of paper after I did IS therapy for a while. I've lived my entire life hiding from things. Of course, whenever I'd allow myself to be myself or talk about the things that I wanted to talk about, I was shunned and I was discarded by people. For instance, I've always been a bit off, a little different, and hypersexual at times when I'm manic or when I'm very happy, or I think differently than most people do, most average people. And here's an example. I was with these three people and we were training for this job together. And we got along great. We were best friends. I mean, we spent 7 days together in the woods. I've never felt so close to anybody. We were getting along terrifically. And I felt loved and I felt accepted. And one day, one of the people said, yeah, there was this case at my high school where one of the teachers slept with one of the high school students. And she was a female teacher, and she slept with one of the male high school students. And I said this in front of all three of them as we were walking down this trail together. And I said, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, good for her and good for him. I'm like, good for them. That's great. And one of the people in the group that I felt like I was loved and so close to looked at me and they said, what's wrong with you? And all three of them started walking faster and they stopped talking to me. And that was the end of our relationship. And I tried to apologize for it later, but I was apologizing for who I really was as a person. Like, that's how I really felt. Like, I've always had fantasies of stuff like that. And I had a teacher in high school that I really wanted to sleep with. And, I was discarded for that. And there's been so many times in my life where I've been discarded for saying certain things like that weren't right or considered average or considered okay or whatever it is. And I don't know how to not be that person. And when I'm really manic and when I'm really happy, I can't really stop myself from saying stuff like that. I'm just so insanely happy that I'm like, oh my God, good for them. That's awesome. There's some videos on here where I'm super manic. And you can see the difference between me being manic and me being unmanic. And a lot of us who suffer from bipolar disorder and BPD, we go into these manic phases where we don't have a mute button. We're just so chaotically insane. So how do we kind of heal from that, and feel okay, where we don't feel like rejected time and time again, and we don't feel like people don't love us? Well, it's hard. I find myself, the more and more I put myself in isolation and I don't really leave the house and I just live in the woods, I feel like I'm making other people feel safe because I have BPD with psychopathic tendencies. And if I feel judged, I want to kill people. And I could get to the point where I would kill a person just because I felt like they were judging me, or they didn't think I was perfect, or they thought they were better than I was. Those are real problems for me. So, and every time I go out into society or I'm around people, if I'm around people long enough, I start to go back to those trends. So I find the best thing for me to feel loved and valued and be a part of something greater is to put myself in isolation. So I don't feel upset, depressed, or rejected, or judged, or unloved. And other people can feel safe as well. So if you are a psychopath or a narcissist, I know you may want to destroy people or have power over people or control people, but do yourself a favor. Work on yourself instead. Do IFS therapy. Study Gabor Mate. Get into Alice Miller. There's 15 people I list below if you're on my YouTube page. Get into those 15 people, man. Psychology and spirituality both. And if you're on my TikTok, go on my homepage on TikTok, hit on the Instagram link, and go to my YouTube. Click on the YouTube and look up those 15 people. If you're struggling with BPD, trauma, significant severe trauma, psychopathy, or narcissism. Seriously. All right, I gotta go. But anyways, thank you so much.